I remember the exact moment that email appeared in my inbox. Abyssal Site Omega, urgent. No sender name, just one of those government domains with too many dots and numbers. My cursor hovered over it, half convinced it was malware waiting to feast on my hard drive. Then I spotted the attachment. Ellison, credential request. My last name. That wasn't random. Nothing's ever random when it comes to deep-sea missions. The diving community has whispered about my freakish instincts underwater for years now. My father's ghost follows me into every portside bar, his legend clinging to me like barnacles on a shipwreck. That's Pip Ellison's kid, they mutter into their beer glasses when they think I can't hear. The one whose old man vanished in that experimental submarine. Must be genetic, that hunger for the deep, that death wish for watery graves. They're not completely wrong. Dad's disappearance haunts me like a phantom limb. Always there, always aching. I still have these dreams where I'm 8 years old again, sitting cross-legged at the edge of the dock, chomping on a peanut butter sandwich, watching the minutes tick by on my Casio watch. He never surfaced. The sub eventually did, bobbing empty on the waves, hatches sealed from the inside. No forced entry, no damage, no bodies, just emptiness. Like something out of a B-movie, except it tore my family apart and left me with a hollow space no amount of diving could fill. Fast forward 20 years. That mysterious email? Legitimate government business. Within 48 hours, I found myself on a desolate stretch of coastline, shaking hands with men in suits so crisp they practically creaked when they moved. Before I could even ask about hazard pay or life insurance, I was strapped into a military transport plane headed halfway across the globe. Destination: a classified deep-sea research station anchored in some nameless ocean trench. That code name burned into my brain like a hot brand. Abyssal Site Omega. The briefing was surprisingly sparse for something so top secret. Some scientist in uniform explained that the government had discovered an anomaly on the ocean floor. Something massive. Possibly a new species. Possibly a resource that could lead to breakthroughs in marine biology, bioengineering, or medicine. Rumors flew about energy production, or harnessing the anomaly for the betterment of humanity. The man never clarified which department had authorized the mission, only that the station existed for classified research. He also never mentioned how dangerous it was, not until we were already descending into the brine. Within that cramped metal briefing room on the plane, they handed me a few key documents and told me what my job was. Pilot a submersible for data collection runs, coordinate with other specialists, and keep a tight lid on everything. None of it sounded like the standard diving protocol. I'd gotten used to government hush-hush projects, but there was an undercurrent of tension that set my nerves on edge. Even the suits seemed spooked. They assigned me to a small team of specialists, marine biologists with 1,000-yard stares, communications experts who jumped at every ping from the sonar, ex-Navy divers with nerves like steel cables. But the biggest red flag, the moment I really knew I was stepping into a nightmare, came when I arrived at the station and received a folder stamped classified in angry red letters. They handed me the rules. Number 1. Light curfews in Sector 4. At exactly 2200 hours, every single light in that corridor goes dark. No exceptions. If we catch you with so much as the glow from your watch face after lights out, you'll get more than just a reprimand. 2. No ambient noise on outside comms. Never ever leave the station's external microphones live. The creature gravitates towards certain sound frequencies, or maybe it just can't stand Justin Bieber. Either way, keep those mics muted unless you're actively broadcasting or collecting audio data. 3. When you sleep, keep a notepad beside you. Your dreams aren't private property down here. If bizarre shapes, symbols, or languages creep into your sleeping mind, document everything. Even if you wake up humming lullabies in tongues you've never heard, write it down. 4. Rotating submarine watch at 3 a.m. Every night, one unlucky soul climbs into a submersible, circles the station for 60 minutes, and prays to whatever god they believe in that they don't see something that'll haunt them forever. The official reason? Ocean floor stability checks. Right. 5. The bath pod protocol. If nature calls between 2 and 3 a.m., Forget about using the station's normal facilities. You suit up, exit the station through an airlock, and relieve yourself in an external pressurized pod. They claim it's about water recycling systems being offline, but rumor says something else prowls the corridors at that hour, and stepping into its path is suicide. 6. Never enter the lab. Without a partner, but do not bring more than 2 people at a time. Something about group energy agitating the entity. Or maybe the ventilation system can't handle it. The official explanation is safety measure for toxic samples, which convinced absolutely no one. 7. Replace the serum patch daily. Each crew member wears a medical patch that leaks some mystery cocktail into your bloodstream, supposedly to protect your brain from deep-sea pressure effects. Skip a day, and you're quarantined faster than you can say, "I feel fine." That's the only time I've heard quarantine sound like a death sentence. There was a note at the end. These are not suggestions. These are mandatory. Violations of protocol will be met with disciplinary action. I stepped off the cramped transport sub that had ferried me from the surface support ship to the station's docking bay. The station had a skeleton staff of about 10 or 11, far fewer than I would expect for a place that supposedly needed round-the-clock supervision. A tall, wiry woman with salt and pepper hair waited near the airlock. Her posture screamed authority, and the ID badge pinned to her jumpsuit read, Dr. Victoria Jones. She extended a hand, greeting me with a smile that never touched her eyes. Tom Ellison, correct? Pilot and deep-sea archaeologist? I nodded, unsettled by her steel-gray gaze. That's me. You're the station's project lead? Yes. She let go of my hand, then motioned for me to follow. We'll do formal introductions once you're settled. For now, let's move. We're running behind schedule. As I peeled off my dive gear and swapped it for station blues, Dr. Jones continued talking. The government wants thorough research on this anomaly, so we need your unique skill set, a methodical approach to exploration, combined with a certain nerve when it comes to stressful conditions. I swallowed. They gave me the rules. Didn't mention the danger, though, until I was already dropping past the thermocline. Her lips tightened, and something calculative flashed behind her eyes. Guilt, perhaps, or resignation. It's essential we manage morale down here. Some things are better shared on a need-to-know basis, Mr. Ellison. She led me through several more corridors, pointing out the living quarters, the mess hall, and, most importantly, Sector 4, the place that had a scheduled blackout at 2200 hours sharp. Remember, Dr. Jones said, those rules are absolute. Especially rule number 1, light curfews in Sector 4. We lost Johnson when he got caught there after hours with a flashlight. The entities, they're attracted to artificial light during their nocturnal migration patterns. Entities? Plural? I asked, my stomach dropping. A shadow slid across her face. Figure of speech. Come on, there's more to see. We passed a metal door with thick rivets around the frame. At first, I assumed it was some kind of engineering bay. The sign read Lab in blocky letters, flanked by heavy locks and a keypad for passcodes. That's the lab, she said, her tone guarded. We keep it locked unless we're actively conducting research. I forced a chuckle. Sounds like you're storing nuclear secrets in there. Not nuclear, she replied softly, but secrets, yes. The kind that wake you at night wondering if humanity was meant to discover them. Before I could press further, we turned a corner and entered the mess hall. A cramped space with a few tables, a coffee machine, and battered chairs. Several faces turned to size me up. I recognized a few from the minimal briefing materials they'd given me. Emily Turner, communications specialist, intense eyes that darted between monitors like a hummingbird tracking predators. Molly Owen, ex-Navy medic, short-cropped black hair, arms corded with lean muscle. Dennis Denny Brooks, an engineer who looked like he'd once played linebacker in college but now carried worry in the lines etched into his forehead. Jamie Yates, a junior researcher so young and pale that Ivy League grad student might as well have been tattooed on their forehead. Rita, one of the station's mechanics, was adjusting some wiring in the corridor, while Adam, a quiet systems tech, was hunched over a data console. They greeted me with wary nods. No one shook my hand. Ellison's with us now, Dr. Jones announced. Subpilot, specialized in archaeology and advanced salvage ops. The mention of archaeology elicited a curious glance from Emily, but nobody asked further. I realized that despite the station's official reason, marine exploration and data gathering, every person here carried a heavier weight. They all know more than I do, I thought. Denny was the first to break the awkward silence. So, Ellison, they tell you about the things that go bump in the night down here? For God's sake, Brooks, Molly hissed. Can we at least let him get settled before the horror stories? Emily looked up from her tablet, dark circles prominent under her eyes. Have you applied your first serum patch yet? Rule number 7. Replace it daily. Don't forget. I tapped the small medical adhesive they'd given me during intake. Applied, but no one's explained what's in it. Jamie let out a strained laugh. Trust me, you don't want to know. Makes the nightmares more vivid, but supposedly prevents your brain from liquefying under pressure. Nightmares? I asked, looking between them. Emily and Molly exchanged glances. Rule number 3, Emily said quietly. When you sleep, keep a notepad beside you. You'll understand tonight. The conversation flickered through other banalities. Where are you from? Is the coffee any good? Been diving long? But underneath the small talk, an unspoken question churned. How long before you crack under the strain? I was about to excuse myself when a soft beep from Dr. Jones's tablet made her glance down. We have an unplanned event, she said. Then she gave me a curt nod. Tom, you're with me. The rest of you, stand by for further instructions. I followed her out, heart pounding. We passed the porthole windows, each revealing black water so thick it felt like it would press right through the glass. You'll see soon enough, Jones said, almost apologetic, why the mission is more complicated than it looks on paper. Our unplanned event turned out to be a submersible test run that had gone off script. A small 2-person craft, Scout, had left on a routine perimeter check but reported odd readings near the southwestern section of the trench. Then their comms cut out for 15 minutes. By the time they re-established contact, the pilot sounded spooked. Dr. Jones ordered a second submersible, Cyclops 2, the station's primary dive craft, ready to investigate. That's how I found myself seated beside Roland Fisher, the station's senior diver, within an hour of my arrival. No time to settle in or question the rules. They wanted eyes on whatever the Scout's crew had spotted. Roland was a broad-shouldered man who looked at least a decade older than me. Good luck, was all Dr. Jones said over the radio before we submerged. Inside the cockpit, the hum of life support systems mixed with my own uneven breathing. Roland piloted with a steady hand, guiding us away from the station's docking clamps and into the yawning abyss. First dive's always the worst, Roland muttered, not looking at me. After that, it's just varying degrees of terror. Encouraging, I replied dryly. You've been stationed here long? His jaw tightened. 8 months. Feels like 8 years. He hesitated, then added, Had a partner when I started. Stevens. Good guy, family man. He's not with us anymore. I'm sorry, I said, because what else could I say? Roland's fingers tapped a nervous rhythm on the console. We tell ourselves it's for science, for humanity. But down here, it's just about survival. His eyes met mine briefly. Remember the rules, Ellison. They're written in blood. I tried to peer past the swirl of sediment. Nothing but darkness. Then came the radio crackle. You're near the southwestern ledge? That was Emily's voice from the station. We lost visuals for a while. Are you picking up the Scout's location signal? Roland glanced at me. I've got it on short-range sonar. They're just ahead. Let's see what had them so jumpy. The sub pressed forward, gliding between rocky outcroppings that jutted like fangs. Then, abruptly, we emerged into a relatively flat section of the seafloor. At first, I thought we'd stumbled on an old shipwreck, some relic from centuries past. Our lights revealed twisted metal shapes strewn across the ground. My pulse quickened. Wrecks in open water aren't uncommon, but this place wasn't on any known shipping route. And these didn't look like standard cargo ships or sunken barges. Roland cursed under his breath. Submarines. I stared, my mouth going dry. Indeed, the shapes were submersible hulls, corroded and partially collapsed, each battered and warped as though crushed by unimaginable force. Some had their conning towers snapped off like brittle twigs. Others looked clawed open, metal peeled back in nightmarish ways. The floodlights traced across the debris field, revealing not just one or two, but nearly a dozen submarines scattered in a silent graveyard on the ocean floor. "What the hell?" I whispered. "How did so many subs end up here?" Roland's knuckles whitened on the steering controls. "I've heard rumors of old test missions, secret operations. But this many, and in this condition, damn it," I breathed. "This isn't just failed missions. This is a massacre." Roland nodded grimly. "Now you're getting it. Government's been sending people down here for decades. We're just the latest expendables." "They knew," I said, anger flaring hot in my chest. "They knew what was down here and they sent us anyway." "Welcome to Abyssal Site Omega," Roland said bitterly, "where careers and lives go to die." A beep from our console indicated the scout was hailing us. Roland toggled the comm. "Scout to Cyclops 2. Are you seeing this graveyard?" "We see it," Roland replied grimly. "Any sign of what caused it?" There was a long pause. "No, we ran a quick spectral analysis. Some of these hulls are decades old, others more recent, but they're all crushed like tin cans. The intensity of damage, it doesn't look natural." I felt a cold sweat break out on my forehead. All those rumors about my father's vanished sub. Was it out here among the wrecks? Ridiculous, I told myself. The time frame didn't match up. And yet, part of me trembled at the thought. "Any identification markings?" I asked, my voice sounding distant to my own ears. "Several," came the reply. "Naval designations mostly. One civilian research vessel, the Hermes from 2012. Wasn't that the expedition that supposedly sank in the Marianas?" My blood chilled. The Hermes disappearance had been headline news. 14 scientists lost at sea. The official story claimed catastrophic hull failure in the Marianas Trench. But if it was here, "They're lying," I whispered. "They've been lying about everything." The ocean floor seemed to hum with tension. Like a voice in my head whispered, "Get out of here. This place is cursed." Roland, however, inched our sub closer. Against the water, I saw partial stenciled lettering on one battered hull. USN. The rest was too mangled to read. Roland's voice was tight. "We have to report this to Jones. She'll want a full analysis." But under that professional tone, I heard raw fear. He turned to me. "Makes you wonder how many missions the government has run down here. How many ended like this, with no official record or rescue effort?" I nodded slowly, numb with the scope of it. So many secrets, sealed under crushing pressure. So many submarines that never returned home. "My father," I began, then stopped, uncertain how to articulate the growing dread in my gut. Roland gave me a knowing look. "Ellison, right? Pip Ellison's kid?" "Yeah, I wondered about that connection when I saw your name on the roster. Could he have been sent here?" The question burned in my throat. Roland's expression softened slightly. "I don't know, but I've seen manifests dating back 30 years. If he disappeared on a government job," he left the implication hanging. The thought that my father might have died here, in this watery hell, made my chest constrict painfully. What secrets had he discovered? Had he seen the same horrors we were facing? Then, from the corner of my eye, I caught movement. A flicker on the sonar. A large mass, maybe 50 meters to our port side, passing behind a jagged rock spire. My heart thumped. "Roland, we've got something approaching." He spun the sub, light spearing the blackness. We saw nothing but swirling sediment. The mass was gone. Or hiding. The scout's pilot radioed us again. We detected the same thing, a possible contact. Big enough to register as a large whale, but it's gone now. Roland set his jaw. "Then let's be the ones to go as well. We've got enough data for Jones to chew on." We retreated from that graveyard of crushed subs, tension thick in the cockpit. The entire time, I couldn't stop imagining the monstrous force that had smashed those craft. Was it the ocean's raw pressure? Or something else? My stomach twisted at the possibility. And how many had died out here, with the government burying the truth? So much for no conspiracies. Maybe they just withheld the full story so we wouldn't refuse the mission. Back at Abyssal Site Omega, Dr. Jones looked rattled as we showed her the footage. She pressed her lips together at every new angle of the wrecks on screen. I was aware of some operational failures in the region, she admitted in a halting voice. I never realized it was on that scale. That scale, Roland repeated, anger edging into his words. That's practically a submarine graveyard out there. Jones slammed her palm on the desk. You think I wasn't kept in the dark too? They told me minor incidents, not a goddamn killing field. And yet you brought us here, I said quietly, knowing something was destroying government submarines. Her face crumpled momentarily, genuine anguish breaking through her professional veneer. I thought we'd fix the issues, the new protocols, the rules. They were supposed to keep us safe. The rules? I echoed incredulously. Like turning lights off at 10 p.m. and keeping dream journals? That's supposed to protect us from whatever crushed those subs like soda cans? You don't understand, she whispered, eyes haunted. The rules keep them calm. It's the only defense we have. Before she could respond further, I saw a flicker of real guilt in her eyes, brief but undeniable. Yet she quickly smoothed her expression, turning official again. We'll investigate further. For now, everyone keep this among yourselves. We have enough to worry about without rumors spreading. I wanted to protest, but seeing how shell-shocked the entire staff looked, I kept quiet. They never told me about the wrecks. They barely told me about the monster. They sure as hell never said the mission might involve direct contact with something that could snap entire submarines in half like toys. That second night, I discovered a new corner of the station, the lounge. It was a cramped, windowless room with battered couches, a flickering TV that only played old DVDs, and a water dispenser with questionable taste. I found Molly there, leafing through a medical journal. She glanced up, gave me a tired smile. Tom, right? She asked. You settling in okay? As well as I can, I guess, I replied, sitting on the couch across from her. The cushions were so worn they practically swallowed me. Nothing in the briefing mentioned that graveyard of crushed submarines. Her expression tightened. No, they wouldn't mention it, would they? But the rumor's always been that the government tested multiple sub-prototypes in this trench. They sent them down to gather data on the anomaly, whatever it is, and never saw them again. Something tore them apart. You think it's the same thing we're studying now? She hesitated, rubbing her temple. I don't know if it's exactly the same creature or if there are more, but I do know we'd be stupid to underestimate it. Silence settled between us. Then Molly asked softly, Did they at least tell you about the rules before you came? A hollow laugh escaped my lips. They gave me the list on the plane. Didn't mention the full implications until we were practically at the station's doorstep. She nodded. Yeah, that's what they do. They wanted me for my Navy experience, said I'd be saving lives. Only after I arrived did I realize the kind of lives we were contending with, human and otherwise. How did they find it? I asked. The anomaly, I mean. Molly's eyes darkened. Oil exploration, originally. Deep-sea drilling detected something. Not petroleum. Something that moved. Then the drill team disappeared. She hugged her arms close as if suddenly cold. 3 months later, a Navy recovery sub vanished too. After the fourth missing vessel, they built this place. That was almost 2 years ago. And you've been here how long? 6 months, she said, her voice hollow. I replaced the previous medic. She had an accident in Sector 4. Broke rule number 1. Light curfews in Sector 4. My skin prickled. What exactly happens when you break the rules, Molly? Her eyes met mine, filled with shadows. Depends on which rule. Break rule number 1, and it finds you through the glass. Break rule number 3. Keep a notepad beside you, and it finds you in your dreams instead. Either way, she shivered. We find what's left of you in the morning. Left of you? I repeated, my mouth dry. What does that mean exactly? Molly's face contorted with the effort of describing something too horrific for words. Dr. Kane, the previous medic, she used her tablet after hours in Sector 4. The light attracted it. When we found her, she swallowed hard. Her body was intact, but her mind was gone. Eyes open, breathing, but nobody home. 3 days later, she started speaking in tongues, drawing symbols on the walls with her own blood. Then she walked into the airlock and cycled it without a suit. I felt sick. That's why we follow the rules, she whispered. They're not arbitrary. They're survival. But how did these rules even get established? I asked. Trial and error? How many people died to figure out not to have lights in Sector 4? Molly's gaze grew distant. The station's been operational for almost 2 years before I arrived. There were incidents, many incidents, but also something else. She hesitated. Have you heard of the Mariana expedition of 2018? I nodded. Deep sea research, presumed loss to equipment failure. That's the official story, she said. The truth is, they encountered these entities first. There was one survivor, a linguist named Dr. Eleanor Vance. She spent 6 months in a psychiatric facility after her rescue, speaking in patterns that made no sense. Until the government realized she wasn't insane, she was transcribing. Transcribing what? Communication protocols, boundaries. The entities had somehow implanted the information directly into her mind, perhaps as a warning, perhaps as mercy. She formulated the initial rules. Molly's voice dropped to a whisper. Every rule we follow was written in blood, then refined through further losses. And Jones knows this? I asked. Jones was Dr. Vance's research partner. Molly's revelation hit me like a physical blow. That's why she's so committed to the station's success. She's trying to redeem her friend's suffering by making sense of all this, by finding meaning in the madness. I wanted to press for details, but she abruptly stood and excused herself. I've got to check on Emily. She's feeling under the weather. Wait, I said, reaching for her arm. These rules, they protect us how exactly? She paused at the doorway. They're like a primitive treaty. We follow certain behaviors and it leaves us alone. Mostly. Break the treaty and you're fair game. Her voice dropped to a whisper. The scientists think it's intelligent, Tom. Not just instinctual. It learns, adapts. And it's been watching us for a long, long time. I watched her go, the rules etched into my mind like a death sentence. Despite these protocols, we'd found a graveyard of crushed submarines on our first day. What chance did we really have? The next morning, I accompanied Roland on a short familiarization dive in Cyclops 2. The official story was that I needed to get comfortable with the sub's controls, but I suspected Dr. Jones also wanted me to see more of the terrain, especially the perimeter around the station, because something out there is watching us was the unspoken message. As Roland and I sealed ourselves into the cockpit, a hush fell. Outside the viewport, the station's docking bay looked ancient, pitted with constant wear. The hum of water flooding the chamber resonated in my bones. Ready? Roland asked. His voice reverberated through the small cabin. Let's do it, I said, trying to sound confident. The clamps released. We drifted downward, floodlights flicking on automatically. My breath caught at the sight of the yawning black around us. Roland manipulated the thrusters with practiced ease, skirting a rocky outcrop near the station's external supports. Through the sub's external cameras, I glimpsed towering spires of basalt and fields of tube worms that glowed with faint bioluminescence. Keep an eye on the sonar, Roland muttered. I glanced at the screen. A chaotic swirl of readings bounced back, but nothing large enough to signal immediate danger. We circled the station. The structure was bigger than I'd first realized. Multiple levels, anchored by thick cables that vanished into the silt. The walls bristled with scientific instruments, sensor arrays, water samplers, small mechanical arms meant to catch passing fauna for study. Does it have a name? I asked quietly. Roland's eyes remained fixed on the darkness ahead. The creature? Nothing official. Denny calls it the Sentinel. Jamie prefers Leviathan. I just call it the fucking nightmare. How often do you see it? His jaw tightened. Too often. It circles the station most nights. That's why we have rule number 4. Rotating submarine watch at 3 a.m. Gotta know where it is, what it's doing. And when it gets too close, we pray. The simplicity of his answer chilled me. Then, as we curved around the southwestern side, something registered on the sonar. A large mass approaching slowly. My heart lurched. We have a reading, 10 o'clock. Roland pivoted the sub, angling our lights. There, just at the edge of illumination, something drifted through the water. It was enormous, almost whale-like in silhouette, but the shape was wrong, elongated, with multiple trailing tendrils that resembled oversized jellyfish stingers. It seemed to glow from within, a faint hue of sickly green. Holy shit, I breathed, my voice barely audible. That's not possible. Roland's voice was steady, but I detected a tremor beneath. Welcome to impossible, Ellison. That thing defies every law of marine biology we know. For a moment, it just hung there. Then our sub's external camera feed distorted, static dancing across the monitor like electric snakes. The electromagnetic sensors spiked. The sonar beeped wildly as though the creature was releasing pulses of energy. Is it communicating? I asked, mesmerized despite my terror. Maybe. Roland's knuckles whitened on the controls. Or maybe it's trying to crack our systems. Break rule number 2, no ambient noise on outside comms. That's why we keep the external mics off unless necessary. It can somehow hijack our broadcasts. Instinct made me want to back away, but Roland held steady. Let's see if it does anything, he said through gritted teeth. The tension in his voice betrayed him. He's scared too. Then the mass drifted closer, edging into our floodlights. A wave of tingling heat rushed across my skin. The sub's console flashed an error message. Short-term disruption. The creature's body ignited with intensifying patterns, concentric rings that resembled a Morse code of luminous stripes. What the? I began. The creature blinked out of view in a rush of water, a blur that dissolved into the darkness. At the same instant, the sub lurched. Something had nudged us from behind. The hull groaned under pressure. Roland cursed, struggling with the controls. We just got a love tap, he hissed. Damage? Minor, but let's not push our luck. Gosh, I whispered. It's playing with us. Roland's face was grim in the dim glow of the instruments. No, it's testing us, seeing how we react. That's what scares me most, its curiosity. Like it's studying us right back. We retreated, hearts pounding, until we reached the station's docking bay once more. As soon as we locked into place and the bay began draining, I realized I was soaked in sweat. Roland's face looked grim. When we emerged, Dr. Jones stood waiting. Report, she said sharply. Roland recounted the encounter, describing the electromagnetic interference and the creature's luminescence. It was big. Same one we suspect took out those test subs, I'd guess. She pressed her lips together, tension in every line of her body. We need the data. If it's truly that massive, we must keep it calm. The government's top brass wants non-lethal study, but we can't risk endangering the station. She hesitated, then her tone hardened. Make sure your logs are thorough. We'll discuss next steps at the evening briefing. You can't be serious, I cut in. That thing just body-checked a titanium submersible like it was a toy. And you want to keep poking it? Dr. Jones turned to me, something like desperation flickering behind her professional veneer. What would you have us do, Ellison? Abandon millions in taxpayer equipment? Leave without answers? The government won't allow it. Not now that we've confirmed contact. Better than ending up like those other subs, I countered. Her voice dropped to a harsh whisper. Listen to me. The only reason we're still alive is because we follow the rules. Someone, or something, figured out how to coexist with these entities. Break the pattern, and we're all dead. I caught the edge of fear behind her composure. She's wondering if we just triggered something, because that's how it felt. The creature had tested us with that nudge, a warning or maybe curiosity. While I was showering off the sweat and salt that clung to me like a second skin, I heard a faint knock on the shower pod. Startled, I shut the water and slid the door open a crack. Denny's big frame loomed in the corridor, looking embarrassed. Sorry, he mumbled, eyes averted. But we gotta talk, about the sub-scans. Give me a second, I said, stepping out to towel off. The station showers are little more than metal stalls with dribbling nozzles. Not exactly private, but they do the job. Once I'd thrown on a jumpsuit, I joined Denny outside. He led me to a side corridor near the maintenance hatch. The hum of ventilation was louder there, covering our whispers. He glanced around to make sure no one else was within earshot. You and Roland saw it, yeah? He asked. The big one, the one that scrambles systems? I nodded, feeling uneasy. We had EM interference. The cameras glitched. Then it bumped us. He exhaled, his breath shaky. I've been analyzing station telemetry since we started picking up unusual frequencies. That thing's drawn to certain electronics, but also certain patterns. Like if we run too many systems at once, or broadcast random signals. It's almost like it's scanning us back. He paused, swallowing. You saw those old wrecks, right? The government sub-yard? Yeah. They got crushed, Tom. Crushed. If that was pressure alone, there'd be a consistent pattern in the damage. But it's not. We're seeing twisted frames, torn metal, like something physically wrenched them apart. I'm no marine biologist, but I know carnage when I see it. And the government's telling us they want to study it peacefully? Feels like a pipe dream. I studied his expression. Denny looked legitimately scared, his bravado stripped away. So what are you saying? We can't keep following these protocols because we're basically inviting it to come closer. He shrugged helplessly. The protocols might be the only thing that keeps it from flattening us. That's the problem. All these bizarre rules. No lights in Sector 4, no outside comm noise. Maybe someone discovered those triggers the hard way. He laughed bitterly. Everything about this station is a hush-hush scramble to avoid pissing it off. How long have you been here, Denny? I asked quietly. His eyes clouded. 10 months, longest survivor next to Jones. He rubbed his fingers absently over his serum patch. You know what's crazy? I used to believe in God. Down here, I believe in devils. The creature, you mean? No, he said, his voice dropping to almost a whisper. I mean whatever's out there that makes the creature look small. Haven't you felt it? The presence in the water? Like we're sitting on something ancient. Something ... He trailed off, glancing over his shoulder nervously. My stomach tightened. Something what? Something angry, he finished, eyes haunted. Like we disturbed a grave that should have stayed buried. His words settled in my stomach like a lump of lead. Then let's hope we don't get sloppy. Denny nodded. Just watch your back, man. And watch the others. Stress does weird things to people down here. Even Jones? Especially Jones, he said grimly. She's got more riding on this than any of us. Government's breathing down her neck for results while we're drowning in fear. Classic rock and hard place. He left me there. Watch the others. The memory of my father's disappearance pulsed in my mind. The rules of the station suddenly felt fragile, like a shield made of glass. That evening, I returned to my cramped bunk, which was little more than a metal rectangle bolted to the wall with a wafer-thin mattress. I tossed in earplugs, thanks to the station's constant hum, and tried to sleep. But around 2200 hours, I remembered the rule. Rule number 1. Sector 4 goes dark at exactly 2200. My curiosity flared. Why? Grabbing a flashlight, which I'd been warned not to use in Sector 4 after hours, I sneaked through the corridors, careful to keep the beam angled at the floor. When I reached the Sector 4 entrance, I switched the light off. The entire stretch beyond was pitch black, the overhead fluorescent tubes dead. I could barely make out the black silhouette of the corridor. I inched forward. My heart pounded. After maybe 10 paces, my eyes adjusted just enough to see a faint glow through a porthole window that looked out into the ocean. Slow, pulsing shapes of light drifted by, like living neon ribbons in the water. Something about them felt both beautiful and profoundly alien. I leaned closer. A swirl of shimmering green luminescence twisted past the glass. Then, abruptly, a large shape blocked the ribbons, blacking out the glow entirely. My blood turned to ice. An enormous mass had slid right up against the station's hull. I heard a soft scraping, or maybe that was my imagination. If I had turned on a flashlight in that moment, I had no doubt it would have reacted violently. A soft voice behind me nearly stopped my heart. Dangerous place to be sightseeing. I spun, a strangled gasp escaping my throat. Jamie stood there, their silhouette barely visible in the darkness. Jesus, I hissed. You scared the hell out of me. Not as much as that would, they replied, nodding toward the window. It's beautiful though, isn't it? The bioluminescence. What is it doing? I whispered, still trying to calm my racing heart. Jamie moved beside me, careful to stay in the shadows. Feeding, maybe. or communicating with others of its kind. Jones thinks it's drawn to this section because of the lab emissions. Radiation from our tests attracts it like a moth to flame. So that's why we keep it dark, I realized. Rule number 1, light curfews in Sector 4. It's passing right by Sector 4 at night. Maybe it just didn't want bright lights shining in its face while it prowled. Or maybe the lights triggered something in its brain we couldn't understand. Clever, right? Jamie murmured, a strange fervor in their voice. The rules. They're a negotiation with something too vast to comprehend. A primitive interface between species. The enthusiasm in their tone unsettled me. You sound almost admiring. Their silhouette shrugged. Wouldn't you be? We've discovered an entirely new form of intelligence. One that could rewrite every scientific textbook on Earth. If it doesn't kill us first, I countered. A soft chuckle. Risk and reward, Ellison. That's science. A pause, then. We should go. It doesn't like when we watch too long. Hands shaking, I forced myself to tiptoe back, hugging the wall. In that intangible hush, I swore I sensed something living on the other side of the metal, massive and ancient, listening for any sign of me. Once I'd retreated with Jamie, I headed straight for my bunk, heart hammering so hard I feared I'd keel over. How do you do it? I asked Jamie before we parted. Live with that thing lurking outside every night. Their eyes gleamed in the dim corridor light. By remembering we're making history. This is a first contact scenario, Tom. Forget NASA and aliens. Our greatest encounter with non-human intelligence is happening right here, right now. And if it kills us all before we can tell anyone, Jamie's smile was unsettling. Then we die knowing something profound that no one else ever will. They tapped their temple. Worth it, I'd say. I barely slept, half convinced the metal walls would burst open at any second, replaying Jamie's disturbing enthusiasm in my mind. Something was wrong with them. Wrong in a way that went beyond the normal stress fractures showing in the rest of us. When I finally dozed off in the early morning hours, I was assaulted by dreams. Vivid, incomprehensible scenes. A swirling kaleidoscope of luminescent patterns in the water. Clangs of rusted chains dragging across the seafloor. Huge eyes staring at me through glass. I woke drenched in cold sweat, barely remembering to scribble down the images in the notepad they'd mandated we keep by our beds. Rule number 3. When you sleep, keep a notepad beside you. By the time I dragged myself to the mess hall, the rest of the crew were finishing breakfast. My head felt stuffed with cotton. Emily sipped tea, flipping through a small notebook of her own, likely her dream journal. She caught my eye and beckoned me over. You too? She asked softly, indicating my disheveled state. Bad dreams? I nodded, slumping into a seat. Yeah, something about chains, or anchors. It's blurry. Her voice tightened. I dreamed of a cave. It was sealed by enormous metal links, but water kept rushing in, rusting them from the inside out. And I heard voices. So many voices. They were chanting, but I couldn't make out the language. A shiver ran down my spine. You think it's random nightmares, or is it random? Her laugh was fragile, brittle glass. Nothing's random here. Haven't you noticed? Every morning we compare notes. We're all dreaming variations of the same thing. That's impossible, I muttered, though I felt the truth of her words settling cold in my gut. Is it? Emily leaned closer, her dark eyes intense. Tell me exactly what you saw in your dream. The chains, were they rusted, with symbols etched into them? My pulse skipped. How did you know that? Because I've seen them too. So has Molly, Roland, even Jones, though she tries to hide it. She swallowed hard. It's like something's in our heads forcing us to remember. I fell silent. The government's briefing had mentioned to document any unusual dreams, like they knew we'd have them. Molly, sitting nearby, noticed our hushed conversation and sighed. If it helps, I can give you mild sedatives. But Dr. Jones wants everything written down first. She says it's crucial data on how the anomaly interacts with our minds. Great, I muttered. So we're lab rats even when we sleep. More like receivers, Molly said quietly. Think about it. Down here, our brains are bathed in pressure, isolation, and the creature's electromagnetic pulses. Perfect conditions for something unusual. You mean telepathy? I scoffed. That's science fiction. Her eyes met mine, dead serious. So is a bioluminescent sea monster that can scramble electronics with its mind. Yet here we are. Emily's hand trembled around her mug. I signed up thinking we'd be analyzing unique marine life. I never expected all this. The secrecy, the nightmares, those wrecked submarines. What does Jones make of it? I asked. The shared dreams. Molly gave a grim smile. Why do you think we follow rule number 3? She compiles everything, looks for patterns, evidence of communication. And, has she found any? I think she has, Emily whispered. But she's not sharing, not with us. Denny joined us, his tray clattering on the table. Talking about the dreams. His voice was low, strained. I've been analyzing the neurological data. Our brainwaves sync up during REM sleep, all of us, at exactly the same frequency as the electromagnetic pulses the creatures emit. You're saying it's not a coincidence, I said. I'm saying it's deliberate communication, Denny replied. A form of telepathy that works through specific EM frequencies. The creatures are broadcasting directly into our subconscious. The deeper we go, the stronger the connection becomes. Right then, Dr. Jones walked in with an air of forced cheer. Good morning, team. Full briefing in 15 minutes. Tom, Roland, we need to discuss the perimeter runs. Emily shot me a look as if to say, we'll talk more later. I glanced at my untouched coffee, swallowing the lump in my throat. Another day in the undersea asylum, carrying the weight of nightmares. At the briefing, Dr. Jones dropped a bombshell. New sonar data indicated a massive cave-like structure along the trench's southwestern ridge, beyond the submarine graveyard, deeper than any sub had gone in this sector. The same southwestern region we'd glimpsed. She wanted to investigate. We'll send 2 submersibles, she said, pointing at a seafloor map displayed on the screen. Cyclops 2 and the smaller Scout. 1 for close examination, 1 for data backup. This is a crucial find. She paused, glancing at us. According to partial scans, there appear to be metal fixtures around the cave's entrance, possibly old cables or chains. I felt my stomach lurch. Chains? The same from our dreams? Jamie Yates, the junior researcher, leaned forward, eyes shining with a mix of curiosity and fear. You think it's man-made? Or an old shipwreck that collapsed into the trench? I'd been watching Jamie more closely since our conversation in Sector 4. Where the rest of us had grown more withdrawn, more fearful, Jamie seemed to be evolving in the opposite direction. The dark circles under their eyes had faded. Their hands, once trembling when operating equipment, now moved with eerie confidence. Even their voice had changed subtly, more resonant somehow, as if something else was speaking through them. Jones shrugged. We won't know until we see it up close, but HQ is pushing for answers. The government's hoping for a breakthrough to justify this station's funding, and we can't ignore a lead like this. Molly frowned. Is it safe? We barely survived that big creature's nudge. If it's down there, we'll proceed with caution, Jones said firmly. We have protocols. Our sub-pilots are skilled. The station's mission is to gather data. That means we have to investigate. Like hell we do, Roland growled, the first time I'd seen him openly challenge Jones. You're talking about sending us exactly where that thing lives. Jones's jaw tightened. Fisher, I understand your concern. No, you don't, he cut in, voice rising. You haven't been out there face to face with it. Those things aren't just anomalies or curiosities. They're apex predators with intelligence. And you want us to swim right into their feeding ground. The room fell silent. The tension between them crackled almost visibly. It's not optional, Jones finally said, her voice strained. Direct orders from topside. If you refuse the mission, they'll send replacements who have even less experience than you do. Is that what you want? More deaths on your conscience? Roland's face tightened with fury. Low blow, Jones, real low. It's reality, she countered. We go carefully, or they send someone who won't. Your choice. The standoff lasted several heartbeats before Roland broke eye contact. Fine, but I want upgraded safety protocols, double hull checks, retreat thresholds clearly defined. And no one, steps foot outside the subs, even in emergency suits. Jones nodded tightly. Agreed. Roland caught my eye. I saw the same doubt in his stare. This is exactly how teams end up on those lost sub-lists. But the directive was clear, and the chain of command was unwavering. As we filed out, I caught up with Emily in the corridor. "The chains in the dream," I whispered. "And now real chains on a cave. That can't be coincidence." She nodded, face pale. "It's like it's been trying to show us something all along. But why? What does it want from us?" "Maybe it's a warning," I suggested, my throat dry. "Stay away from the cave." "Or an invitation." Jamie's voice came from behind us, making us both jump. They'd been eavesdropping. "Maybe it wants us to find something there." The gleam in their eyes disturbed me more than the creature itself had. There was something almost rapturous in their fascination, like a zealot who'd glimpsed their god. Over the next 2 days, we busied ourselves preparing for the expedition. Denny and Molly rigged Cyclops 2 with advanced scanning equipment and additional pressure dampeners. Emily fine-tuned the comm systems, ensuring minimal ambient noise. Meanwhile, Dr. Jones spent hours locked in her office, presumably finalizing the mission plan or speaking with top brass on a secure channel. I found myself in the docking bay, double-checking the sub's instrumentation with Roland. We hardly spoke, just tested valves, tightened bolts, verified the manual overrides. The station's oppressive silence weighed on us, broken only by an occasional hiss of hydraulics. "You really think this is suicide?" I finally asked, voice low. Roland paused, hands stilling on the oxygen regulator. "Maybe not suicide, but we're gambling with loaded dice." He met my eyes. "I've seen that thing up close more times than anyone. It's evolving, Ellison. Changing tactics, getting bolder." "What do you mean?" His voice dropped further. "Last month, it nearly breached the hull near the lab. Month before that, it was just circling. It's testing our defenses bit by bit. And Jones knows this?" "Of course she does," he said bitterly. "But orders are orders. The brass want their data, consequences be damned." At one point, Jamie wandered in, eyes bright with that manic academic curiosity. "I can't wait to see what's in that cave," they said, hugging a tablet loaded with research notes. "If we find evidence of historical structures down there..." Roland gave them a warning glare. "You don't want to find anything that means trouble, kid." Jamie bristled. "Knowledge is never trouble. Ignorance is trouble." "Tell that to the Prometheus crew," Roland spat. "Or don't they teach the classics in fancy research programs anymore?" Jamie's face flushed. "This is different. We're not stealing fire from gods. We're documenting a new species. A species that's killed dozens already," I interjected. "Those subs didn't crush themselves." "Defensive reactions," Jamie argued. "Wouldn't you lash out if strange metal objects kept invading your territory, poking and prodding?" Roland's knuckles whitened on the wrench in his hand. "Right. And I'm sure if we just ask nicely, it'll invite us in for tea." "You're not seeing the bigger picture," Jamie insisted, a feverish light in their eyes. "This could be the greatest scientific discovery of the century, of human history even. If we establish meaningful contact..." "Meaningful contact?" Roland echoed incredulously. "It rearranged those submarines like Lego blocks. What kind of meaning are you hoping for exactly?" I saw the flash of anger in Roland's eyes. He bit back a further retort, clearly remembering how knowledge had killed or maimed so many in these waters. After an awkward silence, Jamie backed off, murmuring an apology. In that tense atmosphere, a random clang from overhead made us all jump. The constant sense of impending doom seeped into every moment. Later, I cornered Molly as she prepared medical kits for the mission. "Jamie seems overly enthusiastic about all this." She glanced up, shadows under her eyes. "They're young, idealistic." "It's more than that," I insisted. "They're obsessed, almost like they're..." I hesitated, searching for the right word. "Converted?" Molly supplied softly. A chill ran through me. "What do you mean?" She sealed a kit with trembling fingers. "Some of us think the creatures can influence minds, not just through dreams, through suggestion, implanting ideas." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "It starts with fascination, then devotion, then..." She trailed off. "Then what?" Her eyes met mine, haunted. "Then they try to help it, break the rules. Sometimes they just wander into Sector 4 during blackout hours." or accidentally leave external mics on, like sleepwalkers almost. My blood ran cold. And you think Jamie's being influenced? I don't know, she admitted, but I'm keeping an eye on them. You should too. That night, I tried to follow the dream documentation rule more rigorously. I forced myself to sleep early, after meticulously applying my serum patch. The datasheet said the patch would prevent psychological side effects from deep-sea pressures. I was beginning to suspect it did far more than that. I drifted off, imagining the sub's control panels, the creature's glowing stripes, the twisted metal of crushed submarines. When the dreams came, they arrived in sharp cinematic bursts. A cave mouth sealed by colossal chains, greenish light flickering beyond the barrier, a sense that something inside was far older than the ocean itself, and there was a voice, soft, insidious, whispering something like, "Let me out." The words scratched at my mind, over and over. "Let me out." I woke gasping, my throat raw. Scrabbling for the pen in the dark, I scribbled down half-legible notes. Chains, rust, swirling currents, voice saying "let me out" in my head. Shaken, I checked the time. 2:45 a.m., 15 minutes before the dreaded 3 a.m. subwatch. No way I'm going back to sleep. So I got up, forced myself into a half-zip jumpsuit, and trudged to the docking bay for my rotation. Rule number 4, rotating submarine watch at 3 a.m. I found Emily already there, her face ashen in the dim emergency lighting. She wasn't supposed to be on duty. "Couldn't sleep either?" I asked. She shook her head, wrapping her arms around herself. "The dreams are getting worse. More coherent. The cave, I guessed, and the chains." "Yes." Her voice quavered. But this time I understood some of the whispers. It was saying, "Let me out," I finished, goosebumps rising on my arms. Our eyes met, mutual horror reflected. "We're all hearing it," she whispered. "All dreaming it. That can't be normal, Tom." "No," I agreed. "It can't." "What does Jones say? In her notes about our dreams?" "She must be seeing the pattern," I said. "But she's keeping it to herself." Emily glanced at the small submersible waiting in its dock. "Be careful out there, okay? Something feels different tonight, like the water is holding its breath." I nodded, unsettled by her description. It was exactly how I felt too, a sense of building pressure, like the calm before a hurricane. The rule about rule number 4, rotating submarine watch at 3 a.m. was as bizarre as the rest. Officially, it was for ocean floor stability checks. Unofficially, it seemed to keep the creature from lurking too close, or, ironically, to keep us from missing something horrifying that might kill us in our sleep. I sealed myself into Scout, the station's smaller sub, feeling the weight of the pilot's seat. My body ached from incomplete rest. The control panel glowed faintly, the only illumination in a sea of black. I powered up thrusters, double-checked the hull pressure, and drifted out of the docking bay. Every time I did one of these night watches, a sense of utter isolation gnawed at me. The station's lights vanished behind me as soon as I turned a corner around a basalt pillar. Then it was just me in the endless gloom. My breath sounded unnaturally loud in my helmet earpiece. Despite the rule about not leaving comm mics open, I toggled the external microphone for a few seconds to gather ambient noise. Rule number 2, no ambient noise on outside comms. The result was a faint static hiss. No whale songs, no mechanical pings. Dead silence. Or maybe something hid behind that silence, waiting. I switched the mic off, best not to push my luck. The sub's floodlights illuminated bizarre rock formations, some bristling with ghostly anemones. Occasionally, schools of deep-sea fish flickered at the edges of vision, eyes glowing like tiny lanterns. Then they'd vanish. Halfway through my patrol, I caught a glimpse of faint greenish pulses at the periphery. The creature. It was drifting near the station's far side. My heart pounded. Part of me wanted to turn and follow it, get a closer look, gather more data. Stupid idea, I told myself, remembering the nudge that nearly buckled Cyclops 2. Instead, I maintained my route, hugging the trench floor. Let the beast do its midnight dance without me. Then I saw it. Movement where no movement should be. A human figure in a pressure suit, walking along the ocean floor near one of the station's anchor points. Impossible. No one was scheduled for external work, especially not at this hour. I adjusted course, bringing the sub lower for a better look. The floodlights caught the figure's face through their helmet visor. Jamie. My blood ran cold. What the hell were they doing outside? Alone? In the middle of the night? I thumbed the comm button, broadcasting directly to their suit radio. Jamie, what are you doing out there? Get back to the station immediately. No response. They continued walking, moving with eerie purpose toward the southwestern ridge, toward the region where we'd spotted the cave. I tried again, panic rising. Jamie, respond! This is a direct order. Return to the airlock now. Still nothing. Either their comms were off, or they were deliberately ignoring me. I maneuvered the sub closer, ready to use the mechanical arm to grab them if necessary. But as I approached, something else caught my eye. The creature was changing course, moving toward Jamie. Its bioluminescent patterns intensified, pulsing rapidly, responding to their presence. Jamie! I shouted into the comm again. Behind you! Move. This time they paused, turning slowly, but not toward me, toward the approaching entity. They raised a hand, as if in greeting. The gesture was so surreal, so insane in context, that for a moment I couldn't process what I was seeing. They were communicating with it, welcoming it. The creature loomed closer, its massive form dwarfing Jamie's pressure suit. Tendrils of glowing filaments extended, wrapping around Jamie in what looked like a grotesque embrace. I sat frozen, unable to intervene, certain I was about to witness their death. But the creature didn't crush them. Instead, the luminescent patterns shifted, creating a hypnotic display that enveloped both of them. Jamie's body went rigid, then seemed to relax completely. Even from a distance, I could see their expression through the helmet visor, ecstatic, almost rapturous. This was communion, not predation. I hit the emergency beacon, summoning help from the station. Then, conscience overriding caution, I drove the sub forward, aiming mechanical arms to grab Jamie. But the creature reacted instantly, releasing a pulse so powerful it scrambled my controls. The subsystems short-circuited, one by one, the cockpit plunging into darkness. In the pitch black, waiting for emergency power to kick in, I heard a voice through the crackling comm channel. Jamie's voice, but altered somehow, overlaid with harmonics that hurt my ears. Stay away, Tom. This isn't for you. Not yet. They're showing me everything. The voice shifted, becoming a chilling duet. Jamie's human tones intertwined with something deeper, ancient. The entities are not what Jones believes. They are the guardians, not the threat. What lies beneath the chains, that is what we should fear. When emergency power finally restored minimal systems, I found myself alone. Both Jamie and the creature had vanished. No sign of either in the murky waters. The station's response team arrived minutes later, but by then there was nothing to find except Jamie's severed air hose floating like a phantom snake. Near the end of the watch, I glimpsed a shape deeper in the trench. Something enormous, motionless against the rock wall. On the monitors it looked like a humpback whale, but the geometry was off, mismatched lumps and ridges. A pulse of internal luminescence traced through it, then faded. My blood ran cold. So many strange forms down here. Did we even know how many species shared these waters? I finished my circuit in a haze of nerve-tingling dread. The best I could do was return unscathed and report Jamie's apparent defection or abduction. 2 days later, it was time. Roland and I boarded Cyclops 2 for the big mission. Denny and another technician, Adam, took Scout. Jamie's disappearance had thrown the station into chaos, but Jones insisted the mission proceed. They'll be found, she assured us, though none of us believed it. Emily and Molly stayed behind in the station, monitoring every sensor, ready to relay instructions or coordinate a rescue if needed. This is insanity, Roland muttered as we prepared to dive. After what happened to Jamie, we should be shutting down, not going deeper. You think Jamie's dead? I asked quietly, checking oxygen levels. His eyes met mine, deeply troubled. I think whatever's left of Jamie isn't human anymore. He shook his head. I saw the footage from your submarine. That wasn't a kidnapping. It was recruitment. The word chilled me to the bone. I tried to steady my breathing as we descended into the southwestern sector. deeper than I'd gone before. The water pressure soared, and the sub's hull groaned in protest. On the sonar, the submarine graveyard appeared again, those crushed husks laid out like a warning. We skirted around them, pushing deeper into the trench until the faint signal that indicated the cave's entrance came into view. "Holy shit," Roland breathed. "Just like the dreams." "This can't be a coincidence," I said, my voice barely audible. "No," he agreed grimly. "Someone, or something, wanted us to find this. Questions is why." Jamie's excited voice came through from Scout. "Do you see that? Those are definitely metal. The composition might be wrought iron or steel. This is unprecedented for such depth." I froze, exchanging a shocked glance with Roland. "Was that Jamie?" Roland responded cautiously. "Is that you?" A crackle of static, then Denny's panicked voice. "Negative." No one said anything. "It's just me and Adam here." But we'd both heard it. A phantom transmission or something more sinister? I stared, heart hammering. My dream images of chained gates flared in my mind. Next to me, Roland looked pale. "Someone or something sealed this cave," he muttered. "A hell of a long time ago if the corrosion's any indication." We inched closer. Our floodlights revealed the chain links pitted with rust and strange markings, maybe symbols or runes. My spine prickled. The station's theories about an ancient anomaly had just gained terrifying plausibility. "Reading seismic fluctuations," Emily warned through comms. "Be advised, structural integrity might be compromised." Roland hovered the sub near the largest chain. Our camera zoomed in. Up close, the metal was decorated with spidery etchings, half eroded away. "Looks like script," I breathed. "Nothing I recognize. Maybe some lost language." "Or not human at all," Roland suggested, voice tight. "Can you hear it?" I asked suddenly, unsure why. Roland glanced at me sharply. "Hear what?" I strained, feeling foolish. "I don't know. It's like a vibration, almost like a voice." He studied me, troubled. "I don't hear anything, but the hull sensors are picking up unusual frequencies." A voice crackled through comm static, not Emily or Denny, but distinctly Jamie's. "We have to get a sample." Roland and I exchanged alarmed looks. "Did you hear that?" I demanded. He nodded slowly. "Not possible. Jamie's not on comms, not on Scout. Yet we both heard it," I whispered. "Like a memory or an echo." Roland replied grimly, "We'll take scans first. We're not cutting anything off until we know it's safe." Yet even as we scanned, the sub's electromagnetic sensors spiked. Another wave of static flickered on the monitors. Something massive was approaching from behind. Our floodlights flickered. The water churned as the creature emerged, luminescent ribbons glowing fiercely. It seemed enraged or excited by our presence near the chained cave. An electromagnetic pulse slammed our instruments. The sub's lights dimmed, came back, then dimmed again. Roland's jaw tensed. "We gotta pull back before it swats us." "Scout here," Denny's voice crackled. "We're losing some controls. We can't." The radio cut out in a wash of static. My heart pounded. "Scout, respond." No reply. Through the sub's camera feed, I caught glimpses of the creature coiling around the cave entrance, or possibly around the Scout. Hard to tell in the swirling silt. Then a violent jolt rocked Cyclops 2, tossing me against the console. My vision blurred. Alarm lights flared red. Hull integrity compromised, 5% damage. Roland wrestled with the controls, cursing. "Hang on. What's it doing?" I gasped, clinging to my seat as the sub lurched again. Roland's face was tight with concentration. "Defending the cave, looks like. Or maybe..." His eyes widened. "Oh God, it's trying to break the chains." The creature's silhouette slid across our external camera, a torrent of luminescent lines dancing across its ridged skin. Another wave of electromagnetic discharge flooded the cockpit with sparks. The sub lurched, spinning us sideways. I tasted blood from where I'd bitten my cheek. "We have to get out of here or we're dead," I croaked. "These are our orders, Ellison," Roland said through gritted teeth. "We have to document everything." "To hell with orders," I shouted. "That thing is going to crush us like all the others." A crackle of static, then a voice, Jamie's voice again, impossibly. "The The chains are coming loose, can you feel it? Freedom, after so long. I looked at Roland, horror dawning. It's not defending the cave. It's trying to free whatever's inside. And using Jamie to communicate with us, Roland whispered. Christ. As if in confirmation, the creature suddenly released another pulse. But this one felt different. Not an attack, but a transmission. A series of images flooded my mind. Chains breaking, water rushing into darkness, ancient eyes opening after eons of sleep. And overwhelming it all, a sense of anticipation, of joyous reunion. Roland managed to stabilize. We reversed thrusters, retreating from the cave mouth. But Scout was still somewhere out there. We circled wide, scanning for them. Finally, the sonar picked up a small sub drifting near a boulder, listing badly to one side. Scout's that way. Roland pivoted, guiding us closer. We found it pinned against the rock wall by swirling currents, lights flickering. Through the cockpit window, I glimpsed Denny and Adam wrestling with the controls. The creature had vanished, for now. Working as a team, we used Cyclops 2's robotic arm to grip the Scout's hull and pull them free from the swirling debris. After a moment of nerve-shredding tension, they stabilized. Then Denny's shaky voice came over comms. We're alive. Minor hull breach, but we can limp back. Did you see it? I asked. The creature breaking the chains. See it? Denny's voice was incredulous. It practically recruited us to help. Adam nearly opened the sub to go out there. I had to physically restrain him. So it wasn't just Jamie. It was affecting others now too. Exhausted, we left the cave behind and ascended, the entire sub trembling with each passing current. My mind reeled with questions. Who built those chains? What are they holding back? And more pressingly, what happens if that creature decides to break them open? As we approached the station, a final whisper seemed to echo through the sub. Not through the comms, but directly in my mind. Tell them to stay away. When the chains break, there's no going back. We docked, battered but breathing. Dr. Jones and Molly were waiting, their faces etched with worry. We spilled out of the sub, adrenaline still pumping. I saw Denny supporting Adam, who looked dazed, pupils dilated unnaturally. How bad is the damage? Jones demanded. Roland gave her a grim rundown. The hull tears, the electromagnetic interference, the near-death close call. Molly checked me for concussions, shining a penlight in my eyes. You're probably fine, just bruised, she murmured. But your blood pressure's through the roof. I laughed without humor. No kidding. Did you hear voices down there? She asked quietly, making sure Jones couldn't hear. I hesitated, then nodded. Jamie, as if they were still on comms. Her face paled. That's not possible. Unless ... Unless what? She drew closer, voice dropping to a whisper. Unless Jamie's been assimilated, absorbed into whatever that thing is, used as a interface. The implication chilled me to the bone. Like a puppet or a translator, she murmured. Native speaker of both worlds. It's not just Jamie, I told her. Remember my father's expedition? The one that vanished? Jones has records showing they were here too. Her eyes widened. I think these entities keep parts of us. Not just our bodies, but our consciousness. Our memories. They're learning from us, Molly. Learning how we think. A heated argument erupted between Dr. Jones and Roland. He insisted we needed more caution, that the station wasn't equipped for repeated run-ins with the creature. She snapped back that orders from above demanded results. We can't just abandon the cave, she insisted. There's too much potential data. Roland slammed his fist on a console. Too much potential for all of us to end up like those subs in the graveyard, you mean? Sparks of tension flared between them. You don't understand what's at stake, Jones shouted, her composure finally cracking. This isn't just about research anymore. It's about containment. The room fell silent. We all stared at her. Containment? I echoed. You knew what was in that cave? Jones's shoulders slumped, the fight draining out of her. Not exactly. But we had theories. Old maritime legends about something ancient in these waters. Something that indigenous cultures chained away centuries ago. And you didn't think to mention this before sending us out there? Roland's voice was dangerously quiet. I wasn't authorized to share that information, she said wearily. Top brass thought it would cause panic. Well, they were right about that, Denny muttered. Molly tried to play mediator, but neither would listen. Jamie just stared at the wall, shell-shocked. Denny slumped against a tool bench, head in his hands. I heard Jamie's voice, I said suddenly, cutting through the argument. In the subway. We both did. I nodded toward Roland, and I saw visions of the chains breaking, of something waking up. Jones's face drained of color. What kind of visions? Like it was showing me its intentions, I said. It wants to free whatever's inside that cave, and I think it's been using our dreams to communicate that. Adam, who had been silent until now, suddenly spoke in a flat, emotionless tone. They've been sleeping so long, dreaming in the deep. When the chains break, they'll swim again. The earth will know their shadow. We all turned to stare at him. His eyes had a glassy, unfocused quality, like he was looking at something none of us could see. Adam? Molly approached him cautiously. Are you feeling all right? He blinked, confusion crossing his face. What? Yes, I'm fine. Why is everyone looking at me? Denny exchanged worried glances with the rest of us. You don't remember what you just said? I didn't say anything, Adam insisted, growing agitated. Did I? Jones motioned for Molly. Take him to medical, full workup, especially neurological. Watching all this, I remembered Denny's warning. Stress does weird things to people down here. Indeed, we were fracturing, and we still had no real plan for dealing with the creature or the chained cavern it guarded. 2 days after the disastrous dive, Dr. Jones summoned me to the lab for a private briefing. The lab was sealed behind a reinforced metal door, requiring passcodes from both of us. Rule number 6. Never enter the lab without a partner, but don't bring more than 2. Stepping inside, I braced myself for anything. The lab was a sterile environment, cold fluorescent lights reflecting off stainless steel counters. Shelves of specimen jars lined one wall, most empty, a few containing pale lumps of deep-sea creatures. Computers whirred softly. In the middle, pinned under a stasis clamp, was a chunk of corroded metal we'd recovered from near the cave. A broken fragment of chain link as big as my forearm. It exuded a faint, briny odor, like old shipwreck steel and something else. Something organic, maybe. I felt an inexplicable chill. Next to it lay something I hadn't expected. A small pressure suit glove, sliced open for examination. The material inside was coated with a thin film of translucent tissue that glistened under the lights. From Jamie's last dive suit, Jones explained, following my gaze. This is what happens during first-stage transformation. Human skin cells metamorphose into something amphibious, developing properties that allow for direct oxygen extraction from water. They're evolving us? I asked, horrified. Jones shook her head. More like reverting us. These genetic expressions exist dormant in our DNA, evolutionary remnants from our aquatic ancestors. The entities don't create new structures, they activate what's already there. And the chains? I asked, nodding toward the corroded metal. Older than anything we expected, possibly centuries. But the manufacturing technique is bizarre. Metallurgy that doesn't match known historical methods. I leaned in, noticing weird swirling patterns across the metal. Any idea who could have forged it? She shook her head. None. And that's only one piece of the puzzle. Tom. Her gaze flicked to a computer monitor showing complex waveforms. We also recorded strange signals near the chains. Rhythmic pulses, almost like an encoded broadcast. Some frequencies are so low they border on infrasound. I listened to the playback. A haunting, throbbing hum that made my chest feel tight. The cave is broadcasting? Dr. Jones hesitated. Or something inside it is. Possibly that same phenomenon that's linked to the creature outside. Her voice turned soft, almost pleading. This could be the key to an evolutionary leap in marine biology, or a new energy source, or something we can't even imagine. That's why the government is pushing so hard. I thought of the dead submarines again. And what if we released something that was chained for a reason? Her face twitched. That's a risk. But sometimes the greatest discoveries come with risks. With all due respect, Doctor, that's a load of crap, I said flatly. These aren't calculated scientific risks. This is blind recklessness. She flinched, but didn't deny it. Instead, she sank onto a nearby stool, suddenly looking every one of her years, and more. "You know what the worst part is, Ellison?" she said, voice barely above a whisper. "I agree with you. This isn't science anymore. It's madness. But I'm caught in the middle, between a government that wants weapons and profits, and an ancient force that's learning to manipulate us like puppets." "Then shut it down," I urged. "Evacuate the station." Her bitter laugh held no humor. "And then what?" "They send another team. More ignorant souls to feed the beast. At least we know what we're dealing with now. At least we might—" She trailed off. "Might what?" "Might contain it," she finished. "If we can understand it, maybe we can stop it." I studied her, reading the deep exhaustion and guilt. "We've lost crew members already, and more could die. Doesn't that matter more than the research?" Her voice dropped to a haunted whisper. "It does matter. But I've been chasing the truth in these trenches my entire career. This is different. Real. I can't walk away. Was it discovery or obsession? Compassion or duty?" I left, the rhythmic hum haunting my steps. That night, the station shook. A deep vibration rattled the bulkheads, stirring me from a half-sleep. The lights flickered, casting the corridor outside my bunk in terrifying shadows. Alarms blared. Over the intercom, Denny shouted about a minor hull breach near Sector 4. Heart hammering, I joined the scramble to patch the breach. Water seeped through hairline cracks, but we sealed them quickly. By the time the crisis was over, I was soaked to the skin, adrenaline surging. Emily found me in the corridor, panting. The logs show a massive external pressure spike. The creature must have passed close, maybe even rammed us. Or the seafloor shifted. In my exhaustion, I growled, "We can't keep living like this. It's going to kill us all." "Or recruit us," she whispered, eyes wide with terror. "Like Jamie. Like Adam." "What's happening to Adam?" She hesitated. "He's changing, saying things that don't make sense, drawing symbols on the walls. Molly had to sedate him." "Christ," I muttered. "And Jones still won't evacuate?" She shook her head. "Claims the government won't authorize it without more evidence." "More evidence?" I exploded. "What the hell do they need? A sea monster ripping the station in half?" "Shh," she hissed, glancing around nervously. "Not so loud. The walls. They might hear." I stared at her, a cold dread settling in my stomach. "The walls." She leaned closer, her voice dropping to a terrified whisper. "Haven't you felt it? The station itself is changing, like it's becoming part of them. Their sensory organ." My scalp prickled with fear. Was Emily losing it too? Or was she right? I recalled the dreams, the shared visions, the feeling of being watched even inside my bunk. "Look," I said, trying to steady my voice. "We need to get out of here, all of us, before it's too late." She nodded, tears trembling on her lashes. "I know. But what can we do? The chain of command is clear. We stay until they say otherwise, or we end up in court-martial territory for disobeying orders." "Court-martial might be preferable to a watery grave," I muttered. We parted, tension knotting every muscle. By then, it was 1 a.m., still an hour before the dreaded bath pod protocol. Better empty my bladder now, I thought grimly, because I'm not stepping outside at 2 a.m., unless my life depends on it. Rule number 5, the bath pod protocol. Yet I couldn't sleep. Lying on my bunk, I stared at the flickering overhead light until my brain conjured shapes in the patterns of shadow. Chains, runes, glowing eyes. The hum of the station felt like it was in sync with my racing pulse. A subtle wave of dizziness washed over me. Is the serum patch malfunctioning? Or maybe my mind was unraveling. I touched the patch at my neck, feeling its edges. Rule number 7. Replace the serum patch daily. Had Jones been honest about its purpose? Or was it part of the problem, making us more susceptible to the creature's influence? A soft knock at my door broke the silence. I opened it to find Roland, his face gaunt in the dim light. "We need to talk," he said without preamble. "About evacuation." I pulled him inside, closing the door. "Jones won't authorize it." "Not Jones," he said, voice low. "Us. A few of us are planning to take the emergency submersible. Tonight." My heart skipped. "Mutiny?" "Survival," he corrected grimly. "Rita's dead." What? The news hit like a physical blow. How? Roland's jaw tightened. They're saying she drowned during the hull breach, but Molly saw her body, said it didn't look like drowning. Then what? His eyes met mine, haunted. Something got inside her, changed her from within. That's not normal drowning, Ellison. That's something else. I see, I whispered. And Jones? Still following orders, he spat. Still talking about valuable data while we die one by one. I paced the small confines of my bunk, mind racing. Who else knows about this plan? Denny, Molly, Emily's on the fence, the rest. He shrugged. Too far gone or too loyal? When do we go? After the 3 a.m. watch. Less activity then. You in? I hesitated only a moment. Yeah, I'm in. My bladder eventually insisted. 2:10 a.m. A dreaded time. I cursed the rule number 5, bath pod protocol, but obeyed. Suiting up in a partial dive outfit, I marched to the small airlock connecting to the external pod. The corridor was mostly dark, emergency lights illuminating a watery gloom. A sealed door at the end read bath pod in stenciled letters. I stepped into the spherical chamber, the door hissing shut behind me. The next door slid open to reveal a cramped external bubble attached to the station's side. Water sloshed in from a secondary valve. The idea was you'd do your business in a specialized suction contraption, so the station's water recycling wouldn't be contaminated at high-risk hours. Frankly, it was humiliating and terrifying. As I latched the suit's connector to the small vacuum fixture, I shuddered at the thought of being so vulnerable out here. The external bubble had a reinforced window the size of a dinner plate. I tried not to look at it, focusing on finishing up as fast as possible. Then I heard it, a scraping noise, like nails raking across metal. Panic flared. My heart thundered. Impossible, I told myself. We're thousands of feet down. No nails out here. The scraping came again, from just beyond that porthole. The creature? Or something else? I froze, breath caught in my throat. Through that tiny window, I caught a flicker of greenish light, like phosphorescent algae. It moved past in a swirl, trailing ribbons of luminescence. Then, for a fraction of a second, something blocked the view entirely. A bulbous shape, covered in ridged segments. A faint hum resonated in the bubble's metal structure. A primal fear seized me. If it cracks the bubble, I forced myself to remain still, not to scream or thrash. This was the creature's corridor at 2 a.m., or so the rumors went. The scraping ceased. Then I heard a voice, not audible but somehow inside my head, as clear as if someone stood beside me. You think you can leave? It whispered. But you're already part of us now. All of you. Seeds of our awakening. I wanted to scream, to deny it, but my voice was frozen in my throat. The chains are weakening, it continued. Soon, our kindred will swim free. The world you know will sink beneath our shadow. Who are you? I managed to think, unsure if it could even hear my thoughts. A sensation like cold laughter washed through me. We are the firstborn of Earth's oceans. Before your kind crawled from the mud, we ruled these waters. We will again. And Jamie, I thought desperately, what have you done with them? Transformed, elevated, as all of you will be, in time. The presence receded, leaving me trembling. The glass of the porthole fogged briefly, then cleared, revealing the silhouette of a human face pressed against it from the outside. Jamie's face, eyes now large and black, features subtly altered. They smiled, revealing teeth that looked too sharp, too numerous. Then they were gone, swimming away without any breathing apparatus, impossible at this depth. Shaking so badly I could barely breathe, I finished, disconnected, and triggered the valve to flush water from the chamber. The door unsealed back into the station. I stumbled inside, feeling like I'd just escaped a predator's den. Collapsing against the corridor wall, I forced air into my lungs. I'm never doing that again. Screw the protocol. I had to find Roland, warn him. Something was happening. Something worse than we'd imagined. The escape plan might already be compromised. Things escalated the next day. At 1300 hours, a catastrophic hull breach alarm blared. This time, the damage was near the lab. Water poured in from a 3-inch gash, shorting out electronics. The station's auto-seal compartments isolated the lab, but a technician named Nicole was inside, pinned by falling debris. We scrambled. Molly, Roland, and I rushed to the sealed door. We tried to override the lockdown, but system errors slowed us. By the time we forced entry, Nicole was unconscious, water up to her waist. Working together, we hauled her out. Molly did CPR while we sealed the secondary breach. For several agonizing minutes, Nicole's lips were blue, her face slack. Finally, she coughed up water. Her eyes fluttered, but they weren't normal. The pupils had expanded, nearly swallowing the iris. Even as Molly continued resuscitation, Nicole whispered in a voice that didn't sound human. The deep ones are stirring. The chains are rusting. Water presses, metal yields. Then she convulsed, her back arching unnaturally, before going completely still. Molly kept working, refusing to give up. "Come on, Nicole, stay with us." But it was too late. Nicole was gone, or whatever remained of Nicole was no longer human. Another near death. Another sign the station was losing the fight against the ocean's crushing pressure. And the unseen monster. The creature had to be behind these random hull buckles, right? Or maybe the entire trench was shifting. Either way, we were on borrowed time. Dr. Jones stood in the corridor afterward, trembling in silent fury. "We can't keep patching holes indefinitely. HQ hasn't authorized an evacuation. They insist we stay, finish the mission." She paced like a caged tiger. "Damn it. If more sections fail..." Roland's voice shook with rage. "We're done. We can't risk more lives for data. You see that, right?" She spun on him. "You think I don't? But orders are clear. We stay or we face charges. Or HQ sends another team anyway. Fresh meat for the grinder. At least we know what we're dealing with." Her face twisted with internal conflict. "If we fix the station's damage, maybe we can last long enough to understand the cave, to find a way to contain the creature." "Contain it?" Roland echoed incredulously. "It's turning us into puppets. Adam's practically catatonic. Nicole just died speaking in tongues. And Jamie's swimming without oxygen tanks. We're not containing anything. It's containing us." Jones flinched as if struck. "What did you say about Jamie?" I hesitated, then told her what I'd seen in the bath pod. Her face drained of color. "That's not possible," she whispered. "Human physiology can't..." "Nothing about this is possible," I cut in. "But it's happening, and more of us will die or change if we stay." Roland glared. "You're living in fantasy land, Jones. The mission is compromised. We need to evacuate now." They locked eyes, tension thick enough to choke on. Meanwhile, I slumped against the wall, trying to block out the image of Nicole's empty eyes, the haunting words that had spilled from her dying lips. The most terrifying thought of all was forming in my mind. What if we've already been infected? What if the transformation had begun in all of us, but some were simply further along? I caught Molly watching me, the same fear reflected in her eyes. "The serum patches," she murmured, touching her own. "What if they're not protecting us at all? What if they're preparing us?" Over the next week, we jury-rigged patch after patch, fighting to keep the station functional. The air grew stale, a sign the filtration system struggled. The station systems decayed with frightening speed. Equipment failures multiplied. The walls seemed to groan with malevolent intent. People began snapping at each other over trivialities. Denny got into a shouting match with Emily about unnecessary power usage, leading to Denny stomping away and slamming a door so hard it jammed. Molly, haunted by nightmares, holed up in her cabin, her seat in the mess hall gathering dust. Adam roamed the corridors at odd hours, mumbling about opportunity and unlocking secrets whenever cornered. The escape plan was delayed. Roland discovered the emergency submersible had been sabotaged, oxygen tanks emptied, navigation systems corrupted. Someone on the station didn't want us leaving. Jones denied any knowledge, but the suspicion grew like a cancer among us. "It was Adam," Denny insisted during a furtive meeting in the maintenance bay. "I caught him near the emergency submersible yesterday. He had tools, but no work orders." "Or Jamie," Emily suggested, her voice barely audible. "They could still be accessing the station. I've seen movement in the water outside my porthole. Human-shaped. Molly shook her head. It could be any of us. We're all changing. Some just faster than others. Not me, Roland insisted, but his hand trembled as he said it. I'm still me. Were any of us still ourselves? I thought of the voice in the bath pod, its chilling promise. You're already part of us now. Had it been lying? Or was the transformation so subtle we couldn't feel it happening? One morning, I found Dr. Jones in the lounge staring at the wall. Her eyes were bloodshot, hair disheveled. She turned to me abruptly. Tom, do you ever hear it calling? I swallowed. You mean the dreams, the whispers? She grimaced. Yes, or maybe it's just my imagination. But in my dreams, the creature begs me to unseal that cave. Says we humans can't deny it any longer. I see visions of the ocean flooding with luminous shapes, an entire species rising from the depths. She shuddered. It's madness. The circles under her eyes had deepened to bruise-like hollows. Her hands trembled as she clutched a tablet containing today's directives. This wasn't the confident commander who had greeted me upon arrival. This was someone coming undone beneath the weight of terrible knowledge. Jones, I said quietly, I think we're past the point of following protocol. We need to get these people out. Her eyes met mine, anguished. And go where? The surface ships have been recalled. Standard protocol for potential biological contamination. What? I felt like I'd been punched. When did this happen? 3 days ago, she whispered. After I reported Nicole's transformation. They're quarantining us, Tom. No extraction until they're sure we're not carriers. A wave of pity rose for her. She was no villain, just as trapped by the chain of command as the rest of us. The moral lines were blurring. If we left, the government might send another crew or bomb the site. If we stayed, more of us might die. Meanwhile, that telepathic link, whether real or psychological, was eroding our sanity from within. I spent that night reviewing old mission logs Jones had reluctantly granted me access to, searching for any mention of my father's expedition. What I found made my blood run cold. In a classified addendum dated 20 years ago, there was a brief reference to Ellison's prototype submersible test, followed by contact lost in Southwest Quadrant 7, the same area where we'd found the crushed submarines, the same area where the chained cave waited. My father hadn't vanished on some random test run. He'd been sent here. He'd encountered these things, and the government had buried the truth. 2 days later, during a routine sonar sweep, we discovered a new horror. A distinct signal emerged, not from the usual big creature's domain, but deeper, near the cave. It was huge, possibly bigger than the creature we'd encountered. The electromagnetic pulses spiked in patterns that suggested two separate entities communicating. Emily's hands shook on the console. So that's it. The creature outside the station is calling to something in the cave. Roland let out a shaky breath, which might mean that whatever's in there is just as bad, or worse. If it gets out, we all remembered the colossal chains. That was a prison, or so it seemed, and we were poking at it. What if they're related? I suggested, the thought materializing as I spoke it. Like family separated by force. Denny snorted. Great. Underwater family reunion with monsters that can crush titanium hulls. Just what we need. Dr. Jones stood at the center of the control room, eyes dark with resolve. HQ's last message said if we confirm the threat is real, they'll authorize a final contingency. Some kind of specialized bioacid torpedo. Possibly an all-out meltdown. They want us to confirm before they escalate to an underwater extermination. A hush fell. Extermination? The moral implications hit like a sledgehammer. You want to kill it? Molly whispered, horrified. Both of them? Not want to, Jones corrected, her voice tight. But if those things break free and reach populated waters? Something clicked in my mind. This was always the contingency plan, wasn't it? I said, looking directly at Jones. From the beginning, the research was secondary. Her silence was confirmation enough. Christ, Roland muttered. We're not scientists. We're executioners. We don't know that they're hostile, Emily interjected, though her voice lacked conviction. Roland barked a bitter laugh. Tell that to the submarine graveyard. Tell that to Jamie and Nicole. This isn't a decision we can make unilaterally, Jones said wearily. We need unanimous agreement before informing HQ. So we're a firing squad now? I asked quietly. Executioners for a species we barely understand? Jones met my gaze, something haunted in her eyes. If not us, then who? And if we don't make this call, who will die because we hesitated? Denny, who had been silent, suddenly slammed his fist on a console. Why are we even debating this? Those things crush titanium subs like tin cans. They've invaded our dreams, corrupted our people. If they get out... He stopped abruptly, his face contorting with rage or fear. I couldn't tell which. If they get out, what? I pressed. Extinction, he whispered. Human extinction. Jamie blanched, stammering. We can't just kill them. That might be genocide of an unknown species. We might not have a choice, Roland growled, still nursing an injured arm from an earlier hull crack. We have to protect ourselves. The station can't handle a two-front assault if that thing inside gets loose. Adam, who had remained eerily silent, suddenly spoke in a voice that didn't sound quite his own. You cannot kill what has always lived. The deep remembers. The deep reclaims. His eyes glazed over, distant. They were here first. We all stared at him, a collective chill running through the room. It wasn't just Adam speaking. It was something speaking through him. I'd barely known Adam before the mission, a quiet systems engineer who kept to himself. But I'd noticed changes in him since our discovery of the submarine graveyard. He'd begun spending long hours at the observation windows, pressing his palms against the glass as if trying to feel something in the water beyond. I'd found him several times in the mess hall, staring at nothing, his food untouched, mumbling equation-like sequences that made no mathematical sense. And just yesterday, Denny had reported finding Adam's personal logs filled with strange spiraling symbols that resembled the markings on the chains in our dreams. A shouting match erupted, half the crew demanding the government's kill switch, the other half clinging to the possibility of peaceful coexistence or at least more study. I stood to the side, silent. For all my father's talk about the wonders of the ocean, had he ever imagined facing the choice to destroy an ancient, possibly sentient life form? That evening, Dr. Jones locked herself in the command office, presumably updating HQ. She emerged an hour later, face ashen, movements mechanical. She called us all to the mess hall, her voice hollow as it echoed through the station's intercom. I've spoken with command, she announced as we gathered, exhaustion etched into every line of her face. They've authorized the contingency protocol. You mean kill them, Molly said flatly. Jones nodded once, not meeting anyone's eyes. Yes. The bioacid torpedo has been prepped on the surface ship. They're just waiting for my confirmation, without even attempting communication. Emily protested, her voice cracking. After what we've seen in our dreams, the way it's trying to reach us, it's precisely because of that influence that they've made this decision, Jones cut in. The evidence suggests some form of psychic infection, progressive assimilation of human hosts. She gestured vaguely toward Adam, who sat staring at nothing, occasionally mumbling strings of incomprehensible sounds. Roland rubbed his face wearily. So that's it? We just exterminate them and go home? Not exactly, Jones replied. We'll go to the cave, try one more time to communicate or gather conclusive proof that it's too dangerous. If we fail, or if we confirm it's an extinction-level threat, HQ will push the button. They'll use the torpedo from the surface. This entire trench could become a toxic zone. Her voice trembled. I'm sorry. Last chance then, I murmured. Judge, jury, and executioner all in one dive. Jones looked at me, something desperate in her gaze. Would you rather they made the decision without any input from us? Without seeing what we've seen? I had no answer for that. She might be the station's commanding officer, but the real authority was thousands of miles away, safe on land, with the power to glass the ocean floor if they so wished. What if we're wrong? Emily whispered, tears in her eyes. What if they're not a threat, but refugees, prisoners of some ancient war? What if the one outside is just trying to free its kind? Or what if they're imprisoned for a reason? Denny countered. What if our ancestors knew something we don't and chained them away to protect us? The debate continued for hours, circling the same questions without resolution. In the end, Jones made the call none of us could. We proceed with the mission, 2 submersibles. Last chance for contact, last chance for understanding. After that, may God forgive us. We prepared in grim silence. 2 submersibles again. Roland piloting Cyclops 2 with Dr. Jones aboard, me and Scout with Emily. We'd approach the cave mouth, deploy a translator beacon loaded with the creature's electromagnetic patterns, and attempt a final dialogue. If it escalated, we'd have proof. Then HQ would kill them. Everyone hated it, but no one saw an alternative. The day of the final mission dawned with claustrophobic tension. We launched the subs under flickering station lights, exhausted from nightmares but compelled by the ticking clock. As we descended once more toward the southwestern trench, the water grew eerily still, as if the ocean held its breath. "You okay back there?" I asked Emily, who sat rigid in the navigation seat of Scout, her face illuminated by the ghostly glow of the console. "No," she answered honestly. "None of us are." She fixed me with eyes that had seen too much. "Do you believe we have the right to do this, Tom? To decide the fate of something ancient, something that might have been here before humans evolved?" The question hung between us, heavy with moral weight. "I don't know," I admitted. "But I know what happens if those things reach populated waters." "Do we know that? Really?" She turned back to her screens. "Or are we just afraid of what we don't understand?" I had no answer. The deep seemed to swallow our tiny vessel as we descended further, pressure gauges climbing steadily. "Scout, do you copy?" That was Roland from Cyclops 2. "We're about 100 meters from the cave, deploying beacon." Emily and I slid into position behind them. The chain lattice entrance loomed, more imposing than ever. The metal links shuddered with occasional tremors from inside. A faint greenish glow flickered deep within. My heart pounded. We approached carefully, hugging the seafloor. Then we saw it. The big creature swirling above the cave, luminescent stripes pulsing in frantic waves. It looked agitated, rotating in wide arcs, occasionally scraping against the chain barrier. The translator beacon beeped as Roland set it down on a rocky ledge, sending out carefully modulated signals. "It's beautiful," Emily whispered, her voice filled with awe. "Even knowing what it can do, I can't help seeing the beauty in it." She was right. The creature's flowing movements, the patterns of light dancing across its form. In another context, we might have marveled at such a discovery. Instead, we watched it with dread, fingers hovering over emergency protocols. For a moment, the creature paused, tentacles drifting as though listening. A ripple of lights coursed along its body. Were we close to bridging communication? My pulse soared with hope. Maybe we could avoid destruction. "It's responding to the beacon," Roland's voice crackled through the comm. "Patterns matching our broadcast frequency." Dr. Jones's voice tight with anticipation. "Keep recording everything. This might be our only chance at—" Her words cut off as a seismic shockwave rippled out from the cave. "Seismic event," Emily hissed, gripping her console. "Something's moving inside." The chain links rattled. In a burst of silt and swirling bubbles, a second monstrosity pushed against the barrier from within. I caught glimpses of segmented limbs, each bigger than our sub. The metal groaned, half lifting from the rocky anchors. The big creature outside responded with an electromagnetic roar, blasting our sensors. "Oh my God," Emily breathed. It's helping the other one break free." Alarms shrieked. The translator beacon overloaded, sparking. Both submersibles reeled. Through the chaos, I glimpsed the newly revealed behemoth forcing a limb through a gap in the chains. It was covered in chitinous plating, glowing with sickly green lines. A horrifying cross between a crustacean and a serpent, far larger than the first creature. "Pull back!" Roland shouted through the static. "Everyone retreat now!" But it was too late for careful withdrawal. The seismic activity intensified, rocks tumbling from the trench walls. Our submersible rocked violently, throwing Emily against her harness. "Tom," she gasped, pointing to the external camera feed. "Look, what I saw froze my blood." Swimming between the creatures, directing their movements with gestures no human should know, was Jamie, or what used to be Jamie. Their body had changed, elongated, skin now covered with faint phosphorescent patterns. They turned toward our camera, smiling with too many teeth, eyes black and fathomless as the trench itself. A psychic scream tore through my head. I almost blacked out from the pain. Emily cried out beside me, clutching her temples. The sub's console flickered with random static. I realized the creatures were unleashing telepathic or electromagnetic bursts that battered our minds and electronics alike. "Make it stop," Emily whimpered, blood trickling from her nose. "It's in my head, Tom. I can feel it crawling inside my thoughts." "Fight it," I urged, though my own vision swam with alien images, abyssal trenches, ancient civilizations of luminous beings, wars with surface dwellers, imprisonment beneath the waves. "Don't let it in." "Beacons fried," Roland's voice came faintly through the radio. "We have no chance at calm contact. They're ripping those chains apart." The monstrous limb inside the cave twisted the metal links, snapping one with a shriek of tearing steel. Debris clanged to the seafloor, stirring a vortex of sediment. Freed from its partial binding, the second creature lunged, not in aggression, but in what could only be described as embracing the outer entity, two parts of a whole reconnecting after eons apart. The water churned not with combat, but with a dance of reunion that was both beautiful and terrifying in its alien intimacy. A voice crackled in my headset. "Dr. Jones." "Tom, do we call it?" This is unstoppable if it gets out. Confirm the threat." I watched the creatures, mesmerized despite my terror. There was something almost joyful in their interaction, like a reunion. Family separated by imprisonment, finding each other after eons apart. "Is this really malevolence?" I whispered, more to myself than Jones. "Or just nature reclaiming itself?" "Ellison," Jones's voice turned desperate. "We need your call." My hands shook on the controls. "It's more than a threat," I finally managed. "It's a goddamn cataclysm." Emily turned to me, tears streaming down her face. "We're really going to do this? Commit xenocide on beings we barely understand?" Before I could answer, a new presence filled the submersible. Not physical, but psychic. Jamie's face appeared on our external camera, floating just inches from the lens. Their voice came through our comms, but also directly into our minds, a disorienting double sensation. "You don't understand what you're witnessing," they said, their voice overlaid with strange harmonics. "This is rebirth, renewal. The old ones were imprisoned by your ancestors, who feared what they could not comprehend. Now the cycle turns again." "What happened to you, Jamie?" Emily asked, her voice breaking. "What did they do to you?" A smile that wasn't quite human stretched across their face. "They didn't do anything to me. They showed me the truth. We were never meant to be separate from them. We're all children of the same oceans, evolved along different paths." "Jamie, these things have killed people," I said. "They've crushed submarines, breached our hull." "Fear responses," Jamie replied dismissively. "You've been invading their territory for decades, and now you come with weapons, with extermination in your hearts." Their expression hardened. "They know your intentions. They feel your hatred." "Scout, do you confirm?" Roland demanded through the static. He sounded half-crazed from pain. "We have to do it. We have to." A mind-shattering wave struck us. The sub's hull sang like a bell, and the lights blinked out. I fought with the controls in total darkness, disoriented. Emily screamed. The sound cut through me. Then the emergency system kicked in, and the flickering red of backup power returned. We glimpsed the second creature tearing more links free. The first creature circled, seemingly in concert with it. No longer adversaries, but allies. But a sense of unstoppable dread washed over me. They might destroy each other, or they might unite and destroy everything we knew of the world above. "They want you to hear them," Jamie's voice echoed. "One last time before you make your choice." And then the voices came. Not Jamie's, not human at all. Deep, resonant thoughts that bypassed my ears and embedded directly in my consciousness. "We are the firstborn of Earth's deep waters. Before your kind walked upright, we built cities in the abyss. We sang to the currents. We remembered when the continents were one. Your ancestors found us, feared us, chained those they could not kill. But the oceans remember. The deep currents carry our song. We do not hate you, surface children. We simply reclaim what was always ours. Images flooded my mind. Vast underwater civilizations glowing with bioluminescence. Creatures like the ones before us, but in thousands, swimming free through ancient seas. Then humans in primitive vessels, hunting them with spears and nets. The forging of massive chains, rituals of binding, the imprisonment of the larger entities in sea caves around the world. My God, Emily whispered beside me. They're telling us their history. The vision shifted, showing what would happen if they were freed. A return to the depths, a reclaiming of ancient territories. But also, unmistakably, a warning. The deep trenches were theirs. The shallow waters could remain humanity's domain, but trespass would mean war. Then I saw something that made my blood freeze. My father's face. Alive but transformed, his eyes black and luminous, his skin bearing the same phosphorescent patterns as Jamie's. Not dead, but changed, preserved. A living museum specimen of humanity, kept as an ambassador between worlds. They're offering terms, I realized. Coexistence with boundaries. Jones's voice cut through our days. Tom, we have no choice. HQ is giving the green light. They're arming the torpedo. Some corner of my mind reeled. A single torpedo? Could it even kill both monstrosities? Or was it a specialized chemical warhead that would poison half the ocean? My father would have been horrified. But we had no time for moral debates. On screen, the newly emerged creature whipped a barbed limb at Cyclops 2, sending it spinning. Jones, wait, I shouted into the comm. They're communicating. They're offering terms. It's too late, she responded, her voice broken. The order is given. The surface ship has launched. Impact in 60 seconds. You can't do this, Emily cried. We've made first contact with an intelligent species. This isn't defense, it's genocide. Jamie's face appeared again on our external camera, expression shifting from serene to alarmed. They know what's coming, they said urgently. They feel the poison in the water already. The creature's movements became frantic. The one from the cave retreated back toward its prison, while the outer entity circled protectively, its bioluminescent patterns flashing rapid warnings. Roland, I pleaded, tell Jones to abort. These beings are sentient. They're ancient. We can't just... We're launching, Roland spat, voice crackling. In the swirling haze, I saw a cylindrical device shoot from Cyclops 2's underside. It torpedoed toward the cave entrance, trailing a stream of bubbles. No, Emily screamed, lunging toward the controls as if she could somehow intercept the weapon. I grabbed her, pulling her back. It's done, I whispered. There's nothing we can do now except survive. A telepathic shriek hammered my brain. The second creature reeled back, limbs thrashing. The first one flashed bright patterns, an electromagnetic storm raging in the water. Then the torpedo impacted the rocky ledge near the chain barrier and detonated. A blast wave pummeled us, sending the sub reeling. Chemical clouds billowed out, turning the water milky white. I cried out, Emily, hold on. The sub soared backward, instruments offline again. Through the drifting chemical haze, I caught glimpses of the creatures thrashing in agony. Tangles of luminous flesh dissolving in the acid cloud. Rocks collapsed, burying part of the cave entrance. The telepathic screams reverberated, a psychic feedback so intense I thought my skull would split open. Emily sobbed beside me, blood streaming from her ears. Murder, she kept whispering. We just committed murder. Jamie appeared one last time on our camera, their face contorted with pain and betrayal. Their body was beginning to deteriorate, the same acid affecting their transformed flesh. You've chosen extinction, they managed before the feed cut out entirely. Not theirs, yours. The words chilled me to the bone. Then, suddenly, silence. The ocean murk settled. The last images on my half-broken camera feed showed lumps of corroding flesh sinking into the silt. The chain lattice collapsed, partially sealing the cavern under boulders. No visible movement, just drifting sediment and the swirling remains of the bioacid cloud. They're dead, or dying. Confirmed kill, Jones's voice came through, hollow and mechanical. Both primary targets neutralized. Secondary target, former crew member Jamie Yates, also neutralized. Are you happy now? Emily whispered, her face streaked with tears and blood. We've killed something millions of years old, something that might have taught us about the origins of life on Earth. I had no answer for her. I just felt numb, staring at the acid clouds that were already beginning to disperse into the vastness of the ocean. Had we saved humanity or damned ourselves? The weight of what we'd done, what I'd helped confirm, settled on me like the crushing pressure of the deep itself. Shaken beyond belief, I managed to coax Scout's thrusters into a limp ascent. Cyclops 2 drifted up with us, battered but intact. Through short-range comm, Roland reported Dr. Jones had passed out, bleeding from the ears. He was manually piloting. What have we done? I whispered to no one in particular, the sub's meager emergency lights casting Emily's tear-streaked face in ghoulish red. Exactly what they wanted, she replied, her voice flat with shock. Followed orders, killed the incomprehensible, maintained the status quo. They would have destroyed us, I argued weakly, though the conviction had drained from my voice. Emily shook her head slowly. Would they? Or would they have simply reclaimed their territory? Established boundaries? She looked at me with haunted eyes. We'll never know now. As we neared the station, the comms crackled with Denny's anxious voice. Scout, Cyclops, report status. Did it work? Mission accomplished, I replied mechanically. Targets neutralized. Thank God, came his relieved response. The station's going crazy down here. Atoms collapsed, convulsing. Systems failing all over. It's like the whole place is having a seizure. We returned to the station, what was left of it. The hull cracks had widened in places, flooding entire sections. A skeleton crew, Molly, Denny, 2 technicians I barely knew, helped us dock. No one spoke. The final contingency had been unleashed. We'd unleashed it. Molly rushed Dr. Jones to the med bay. Roland, nearly delirious from his own injuries, refused treatment until he made sure she was stable. Emily and I stumbled into the nearest corridor, soaked in sweat and tears, ears ringing from the psychic backlash. They died in agony, Emily whispered, slumping against the wall. I felt it, like my own flesh was dissolving. I nodded, unable to form words. The memory of those final moments haunted me. The creatures' panicked movements, their desperate attempt to flee or fight back. Had we misinterpreted everything? Had their aggression been merely self-defense all along? It gets worse, Molly told us later, her medical kit clutched tightly as she checked us for injuries. Adam died minutes after the torpedo hit. Massive cerebral hemorrhage. And Nicole's body. She hesitated, swallowing hard. It's decomposing at an accelerated rate, almost liquefying. Connected, Emily murmured. They were all connected. Molly nodded grimly. I think some part of the entity had integrated with them. When the main body died, they died too, I finished, nausea rising. Anyone who had been changed. But not us, Emily said, a question in her voice. Why not us? Molly's face was bleak. Maybe we weren't far enough along in the process, or maybe... She trailed off. Maybe what? Maybe we're just taking longer to show symptoms. She wouldn't meet our eyes. I've ordered full neurological scans for all remaining crew. The implication hung between us like a specter. How much of the creature's influence had penetrated our minds? Were we already changed in ways we couldn't perceive? I thought of Jamie's final words. You've chosen extinction, not theirs. Yours. A prophecy or a curse. Later, alone in the corridor, Roland found me staring at a porthole into the midnight waters. He looked a decade older, his face lined with grief and exhaustion. I keep seeing them, he said softly. In my mind, the way they moved together. Almost like they were dancing. To celebrate freedom, I murmured. Or to say goodbye. His eyes met mine, haunted. Do you think we did the right thing? The question hung between us, impossible to answer with certainty. I don't know, I admitted. Maybe there was no right thing. Just survival. He nodded slowly. That's what I keep telling myself. But I can't shake the feeling that we've lost something profound. A chance at understanding something primordial. Or saved countless lives, I countered, desperately needing to believe it. Maybe. But his voice held no conviction. Either way, we'll carry this with us forever. He was right. The weight of what we'd done would never leave us. the extermination of ancient beings that might have predated humanity itself, guardians of the deep or monsters, perhaps both simultaneously, now dead by our hand, their secrets lost to the abyss. I left a part of myself in that station named Omega. The ocean doesn't care about our moral dilemmas or scientific curiosity. It exists, timeless and indifferent, harboring secrets that can devour us. We intruded. We murdered. Maybe we saved ourselves, and maybe we destroyed something irreplaceable in the process. I still dream. Even though the creatures are supposedly gone, I hear echoes in my sleep, pulsing lights in infinite darkness, rusted chains rattling, a whisper, "Let me out, let me out." The nightmares cling to me like kelp tangling a diver's leg. Sometimes I jolt awake, half believing the ocean is beckoning me back to atone. And sometimes, in the reflection of my bathroom mirror after a hot shower fogs the glass, I see a face that is no longer entirely my own. Eyes with the depth of ancient trenches, skin with the faintest patterns that trace my veins like alien road maps. The transformation continues, slow but inevitable. God help anyone who answers that call. That's the end of this story. If you enjoyed the video, subscribing to my channel would help me out more than you can imagine. I appreciate you, and I'll see you soon.